who make it there and can make it back.
All right, salutations and shit, folks. Welcome back to another episode of your favorite travel podcast, Travel and Shit, where I, your host, D. Carey, have an experiential conversation about the nuanced ways travel intersects with regular life, and I talk with my hands. If you haven't noticed, you can see such on YouTube. And if you're on YouTube, you can see I have a beautiful guest. Hello, handsome.
Hey.
Joe. We have been talking about this for a while. Then we stopped talking about it. And then boom, here we are. Thank you for joining me. Finally.
Thank you for having me.
Please introduce yourself to the community.
All right, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. My name is Joe, aka Joe, the Wellness Curator. I'm a health coach and a wellness curator that has a podcast called Obsidian Mindset Podcast, where we talk all things wellness, all the dimensions. We talk about 8 dimensions of wellness. And really what the point of it is to figure out what wellness means to you. There's a lot of conceptions and preconceptions of what wellness should look like, and I need to fit into this mold. I need to do this, and this. When in actuality, wellness is based off everyone individual looks and feels and things of that nature. So that's what we tried to break down and talk about. So I'm excited to be here to talk about how wellness intersects with travel, because those are 2 of my favorite things.
And I'm happy to have you here. So if you guys are not new to travel and shit, y'all know that I am very heavy on intentional travel. I truly believe that travel has the ability to be the gift that keeps on giving. You know, you get back from your trip and you are still finding new ways to receive from that experience. That has been my experience, and I, wish that for everyone. But one of the things I've discovered, I didn't start out this way. So if this is something that is news to you, welcome. If you feel inclined to beat yourself up, please don't. But travel can be so intentional and such a gift if you tap into the ways that it is able to pour into you, and if you use it to pour into self. I have found that if I take time and actively think about what is going on in my life back home, I am able to, with a more clear mind, not always come up with an answer. Okay, let's be clear. I don't always solve the world's ills. I don't solve all my problems, but I'm able to see certain situations through a different lens, through another set of eyes. This way I can attack it with something new. When you find yourself in the same situation, throwing the same fixes or the same ideas at a problem and nothing's really moving, I find getting a fresh perspective, a fresh start has been very helpful to me. And that has absolutely improved my own personal wellness. So I was able to then connect travel with wellness.
I know that's right.
My wellness became part of my travel experience. So I'm really excited to have this particular conversation with Joe. To start, what are the 8 dimensions of wellness? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, so this is interesting. I always end up missing one because it's a lot of numbers. But for me, when I started my wellness journey 12 years ago, I lost over 100 pounds. And, in my head, I'm like, all right, physical, boom, let's do this. I have to lose the weight. I have to eat right. I have to do this and this and this. And then after a while, I was like, I lost it and yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, I don't feel well, right? Like, it's just like, I feel fitter. People are saying you look good, but I don't feel like, I feel like there's stuff missing.
And Joe look good, y'all.
I know that's right. Thank you. So the next thing I started to tackle, and this is another dimension of wellness, was the mental. So I actually started going to therapy, and I started to break down some bigger things and some bigger blockages that were happening. So I always like to say I had the mentality of before I had lost weight, and I was still holding some of those stories and belief systems and things even after. So that's just another section of wellness that I had to unpack, that I'm still unpacking and working through. So that's physical, mental/emotional. There's financial, which, you know, we all can use some coins, or just learn how to manage it, or like what wellness looks like when you think about not even just, and I know you know about like the abundance mindset of just not only just I need money, but like how are you acting towards money? What's your relationship with money? And that's another conversation I had to have. Just like, am I always trying to hoard it? Am I always trying to like save? Am I always trying to you know, nickel and dime everyone, or am I really thinking, okay, I have enough for me and everyone else around me? So you got financial, we got spiritual, we got social. As someone that is you know, single, hey y'all,
Currently.
currently for now, that is another thing that I've always had to, that also worked into my wellness journey, my weight loss, of just having these ideals of what acceptable in the dating world is, not being as comfortable. Also identifying as a queer man, just so what does that look like dating, and the pandemic, right? There's so many things that just hit that really, you know, made the social aspect very different. So we got financial, social, physical, emotional/mental, spiritual, intellectual, which I always talk about. That's where I think about travel, right? Intellectual wellness is just like, how am I learning more about the world, thinking about bigger stuff? How am I keeping my brain moving and thinking about extra stuff? Environmental. So like what's going on in your environment? Is your room clean? Is your room lively? Does it embody you? And then lastly, I think that was 7. What's the 8th one?
2, 4, 6. Yeah, it was 7.
Damn, there's always one. Spiritual, intellectual, social, physical, emotional. I'm gonna do a cheat. Don't mind me. It's gonna come to me as soon as
Of course it will, because that's when it comes to me.
as soon as I open this up. But while I'm doing that and distract you a little bit, I think for me, one of the biggest things that I have come across trying to reconcile is I've been taught a lot of things about wellness. And one of the biggest things I've had to do is to really deconstruct everything I've been taught and start from scratch. All right, here
Yeah.
we go. We got physical, emotional, intellectual, social, occupational.
Okay.
Occupational wellness. And what that means is, do you love your job? What are you doing for passion? What are you doing for, are you volunteering? So what brings you fulfillment in terms of your job or labor?
Okay.
Woo, all right. That was a little low down, a little shimmy.
I got them all down. I righted them because I wanted to reflect back. So in those 8, one that stood out to me,
Let's talk about it. Uh-oh.
and it's just really a funny aside. Ain't really no value in this.
There's always value in what you say, girl.
So when you said physical, I was just like, girl, all them fads and all of them things you said you was gonna do that never did. So one thing that I am good for, when I tell you good for, consistently, without a doubt, I am good for buying a fucking gadget or doodad or gizmo or something that is supposed to help me with a goal. Yeah, I'm looking at you. It's supposed to help me with a goal and then never using it. When I tell you I was vegan for a little stint that lasted 3 weeks. Mind you, it was a good 3 weeks because most of that time was spent like moving and shaking. I started like on Thanksgiving.
On?
I don't know what was wrong with me. I made my little vegan mac and cheese. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was. It wasn't okay, but it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. But I find that I am very easily I'm with the shits when it comes to spending money on something that I think will make something easier for me, something that will bring joy in the sense of an accomplishment. Like I bought a food processor that little time that I was going to be vegan. Thankfully, what's up to Drew? Because I was asking Chef Drew if he had a recommendation, and he was just like, Skittle, why don't you just buy he calls me Skittle because I used to change my hair colors a lot, and was like, why don't you just buy the cheapest one that looks like it'll get the job done? When I tell you I haven't even cracked the box, I'm so glad I just bought whatever $20 one was in there. I bought oh yeah. I bought a juicer years ago, maybe like 2010, maybe 2012 or so. And it is sitting in my parents' like storage, like under the house storage, because I ended up giving it to my dad. He used it for a stint, and then it's never to be seen. And it's funny, but not funny, but I saw on, so I'm with the Twitters now. If you feel so inclined, it's the same as my Instagram, either _DCarry if you'd like to follow moi, the me, or if you just want to follow the podcast, Traveling Shit, TRAVEL, the letter N, SH_T. But I came across, I don't want to say, nope, it was a thread. Was it a thread? It might have been. Anyway, someone had mentioned that as what were they? I don't know what they were diagnosed as, some type of neurodivergent. And they were basically saying that a lot of things for them, I think they were ADHD, looked like different coping mechanisms, but that actually worked for them. Like, okay, so I find that I am better at accomplishing my daily tasks if they look pretty. So buying a leather bound notebook and the really nice highlighters and colored pens that I want, while seem like a very frivolous spend, they're actively keeping me going with something. Hiring somebody to clean, I can't necessarily afford maybe like 4 times a month, but I can do once a month. So it's easier for me to really get in my head and be like, all right, so it's just maintenance cleaning. Let me just do this load of laundry. Let me wipe the surfaces in the bathroom. And I'm not getting in here scrubbing grout, but I'm cleaning the mirror. I'm cleaning the toilet, wiping the sinks and the showers down. So in what he initially saw as something that was, wow, I'm just blowing money. After he kind of tallied like some of the things that he was spending on and really like clearly like detailed it for us in this thread, it was like, oh, okay, I see what you're doing here. And so that piece of, to your point, it started out as being useless information, and then when I tie it all together in the package, in terms of financial, I see that I was doing a lot of that. And while I may not have necessarily sustained with all of the things that I threw money into, it at least taught me like, okay, no, this trend isn't for me, or this practice is not for me. I still was able to learn, and I still was able to commit to doing something new. So even if it doesn't necessarily turn out to be something that changes your fucking life, if it at least changes you in the sense that it gives you more information, I think that it can be, tapped into being something that is beneficial to you if you find the use in the lesson. No?
Yeah. So I think you hit on a few things I just want to piggyback off. I think one, the big thing is, like we've been talking about, being intentional, right? Like that leather bound journal has an intention, and just buy it because I bought it. I think sometimes you have to sit down and figure out why you're doing what you're doing regarding wellness. I think, me too. I too love a good gadget. Got a Garmin watch. I got an Apple Watch. All these things tracking all these different metrics. But for me, I know I love data. Right. I'm an accountant by day. I love to see what I'm burning. I like to see how fast I'm running. And I think for me, that brings me joy. That brings me that extra bit of oomph that keeps my wellness journey moving. I think a lot of times we want to try something new. I know for me, when I get new workout clothes, that next workout is on fire. It don't matter what's happening. I have a new outfit on. It's over. It's over. Yep. So I think it's just sometimes it's a piece of it's just like you want to spice up your because we have a lot of life of if you're fortunate enough, you have a lot of life to live. And this wellness journey can get monotonous. It can get boring. You want to go to the gym every day, yada, yada, work on this. Sometimes you need to spice it up, either take a different class. I always say, try something new. I've done pole dancing before. Okay. That was a hell of an experience. Humbled me very much so. Humbled. I now appreciate everyone on P-Valley.
Hello. Okay, athletes.
The truest athletes. Don't say nothing. So just to spice things up, that's how I spice up my wellness journey. When we're talking about documentation, I have a watch. Sometimes I have a scale that gives me all my stats and stuff. I try not to focus too much on it because you can get kind of drained into that, like, why do I lose a pound here? Why did I gain it here? But it keeps me kind of interacted in it. And then it's just, and if you want to talk about something different, just like food wise, like there is science that says when your food looks appealing, you're more likely to eat more healthy, right? So I know for a salad, when it's a whole bunch of colors, the reds and the blues and the greens and the yellows, I'm like, oh, this is delicious versus, oh, I'm having oatmeal today, right? So I think there's different ways of like spicing it up. And, you know, we all, sometimes we mess up and we buy something that did not help. But it's just another lesson learned. And we get to know, like you said, you can either treat it like a failure, like I messed up, I shouldn't have done this, or actually, I'm never going to do it again. I'm going to go sell it on Etsy. And this is now not for me.
Yeah, I can't remember the last time I had oatmeal without the razzle and the dazzle. I do all of the fruits. He likes it with almond butter. I am not a fan of almond butter. It doesn't do it for me. But I also am very particular about my peanut butter even. I don't like, while I like nuts, that's what she said. Nuts. Okay. While I like nuts, I don't like nuts in my food. Like if I get Thai food, it's gotta be no peanuts. I cannot have it in my food. Once it's in the food, it's now, I don't enjoy it. So even my peanut butter, no, not even the texture, because I love a good oyster. Okay. Love oysters. And I'll eat the nuts by themselves, but as soon as you put them in something other than chocolate, I am uninterested. I only eat Skippy reduced fat peanut butter, not because it's reduced fat, but because it tastes less peanut buttery to me. So it's another little quirk about me, you know, I don't like nuts in my food. But yeah, I find that when you find a way that is appealing to you, you're more likely to stick with it. And it's similar, even with like travel trends, right? Or travel preferences. I am I am a window seat girl. And it works for me because how I know I can get comfortable. I'm not that big. So but I am still very uncomfortable when flying. So my heart goes out to those of y'all who are larger than 5'5" and 150. You know what I mean? Like it is
struggles.
Yeah. So I can imagine. One of the things that I will say I have started using and love is a foot hammock. I bought it on Amazon, the little hammock, so that you can pull your knees up and just kind of be more comfortable, because I'm a baller. Like if I can, that too.
Baller.
Unfiscally related, I just like being like, you know, tight. Like I'm one of those, I'm going to get in fetal position to get comfortable. So I want to be on the wall so that I can lean, I can put my arm up, I can lay my head over, and I don't want nobody brushing up against me. I don't want nobody touching me. I don't want no strangers waking me up by accident or on purpose if they're coming up and down the aisle. And honestly, I get it if that happens because it's a fucking aisle. People are moving. You know what I mean? But I find that because I know what works for me, I make sure that I will pay to choose my seat, because I don't want to run that risk of not getting what I want and now putting myself in a situation where I'm going to be uncomfortable or unhappy, or now look back and say, and now look at you. It would have been $30 and you'd have been comfortable, but now you're sitting here uncomfortable. So I know where certain things have made the difference in, do I need to spend this? No. But do I want to risk? It's kind of, a lot of times like the cost benefit. Is that what I'm? It's
cost
like,
benefit analysis.
Yeah, is it worth the peace of mind? I was actually talking with my partner the other day. What was it in particular? It was something about, I think we were talking about insurance. And he was saying that insurance in and of itself is not like for everybody. I agree. It's for me though, because for me, it is worth it to pay to not have to think about this in the future. Now, I understand that for someone that's relatively healthy or someone that doesn't necessarily have pre-existing or long-standing maintenance issues or things that they have to work on, how they can see, well, I don't go to the doctor. I haven't been to the doctor in the last 10 years. I don't anticipate going in the next, so blah, 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 blah. And so for someone like that, I could see insurance not being necessary. But for me, I know that that is a spend that is not necessarily just about like my physical wellness, but it's also my mental. Like I'm gonna just be stressed that God forbid there's a car accident or God forbid, because now mind you, there are people that can just afford things, right? So even without insurance, they just feel like, oh, I'll just pay for my doctor's visit. I'll just pay for the visit when I show up. And I'm like, yeah, I hear you. But what about those visits that all of a sudden come because of something you weren't expecting? Now, all of a sudden, like I have a vagina. I will hopefully, and not just a vagina, I also have a uterus and ovaries. I would like to have children one day. So I would like to consistently visit my GYN, OBGYN, so I can make sure everything is okay. And does it make sense to pay for those visits up front? If that's your bag, yeah. But what if something happens? That's not something that I necessarily pay too much attention to until I have to pay attention to it. So at that point, it's just like, so now you're running the risk of being diagnosed with something, or if you get pregnant and now you have a difficult pregnancy. It's like for different people, different things. But I find that when you know what works for you, like what seat to sit in when you get on that plane, and then also like what things are going to bring you peace of mind down the lane, like down the road, you're better equipped to make decisions. But you learn those decisions by fucking up.
That's the part. I think it's being intentional, but also learning those lessons. I think it's, back in my younger first started traveling, I'm like, give me the cheapest seat possible. I want all the flight deals. I want a $200 trip to Kenya. I don't care if I need to go 5 stops. I don't care if I need to Now I'm like, no, like, and it's not even just me saying like I make more money than I did before, like 10 years ago. It's more of like, is it worth the things that are non-monetary? Before I was making a calculated risk. I'm like, money, money, money.
Yeah.
I'll make it work. Now it's like, okay, money aside, do I want to pay $50 extra to be at the front? Do I want to get my extra leg room? I am 6'3". It's funny because before, when I was not considering them non-monetary things, I would go to the front desk or to the clerk and they were like, oh, poor baby, let me put you in the aisle seat. You do not need to be in that seat. And I'm like, thank you. You get it. But now I'm like, I don't want to risk someone being mean, right? And be like, whatever, you're going to get what you're going to get. I need to put things in my own hand. I need to like make these choices and be like, okay, I want to make sure I get some aisle room. I want to see if I can get this cabin door. I want to make sure I can, whatever it is, to be comfortable, because comfortability and convenience are very important.
Yeah.
Especially travel and wellness.
I was just about to say that I think that people underestimate how much comfort goes into wellness. Like just think about how many things negatively impact your mental health, like your mental wellness and just like your emotional disposition, right? How many of those things are based on comfort? Whether or not you're comfortable with conflict, whether that be conflict at work, conflict in your personal life, the idea of like, I'm not a conflict person. I don't enjoy it. It's like, I don't understand. Well, no, I do understand, because some people just are different. They enjoy conflict. I get how some people may be into diving into Twitter and responding to everybody or going back and forth. Like there is no value in that for me. So I can very easily, and it's growth, you know what I mean? Like 22-year-old me might have had the energy to go back and forth with you. 37-year-old me absolutely doesn't. Like when I tell you the ease with which I see something that I disagree with and I go,
screwed up.
Yep. I just keep it pushing. Like I just keep going. And I don't think I really noticed how much comfort mattered, because like you, I was looking at the cost of things, but now the cost isn't just financial. The cost is emotional. The cost is mental. The cost is my time. The cost is my energy and attention. Like my attention costs now. just
Mhm.
because I have so many things to pay attention to. If this isn't something that is going to bring me joy, something that is absolutely necessary to me existing, whether it be in employment or in housing or in like a good standing relationship with someone that I care about, it's not of importance.
Yep.
It's just not an option anymore.
And I think the older you get, the older I get, I learned that energy is a currency. And that's something I'm like, and similar to you, you're like 22, all right, let's go. Let's go on this Twitter war. I got time. Now I'm just like, what is that going to do for my energy? Because I'll be exhausted just because I don't see you face to face. If it's a conflict, my energy is drained.
Yes.
Virtual, as an introvert, I'm drained because that does not jive with what I do. I like to read. I like to chill out. I like to watch TV. Like those bring me energy.
Yes.
So now it's just like I've learned, even like doing things work, even doing things related to the podcast, it's just like I've learned that if my body says you are depleted, you don't have energy, I'm not pushing it. Those all-nighters and college, I can't do that anymore. I have to be very cautious, very intentional about how I use my energy. And if I don't have time, or if I don't, excuse me, if I don't have the energy to do something, I have to be very honest with myself. And I've even had to, this is why it's good to kind of know your people, know your friends, know your tribe, because I'll go to my friend that knows me and I'll say, can we cancel this? My energy is not right. And they'll be like, oh yeah, absolutely. I get it. So it's just like, you learn that money kind of shifts well, that's kind of a privileged conversation, but I've learned that, I've put more focus on like how my energy is feeling and honoring that.
Gotcha. So what types of experiences in your travels has helped you kind of bolster this presence of Joe now? Like the Joe of 10 years ago, just like the D of 10 years ago, I'm sure they were great. We love them for who they were. But between the 10 years ago, 15 years ago, us and us now, like what were some of your experiences that you have had in travel that have added to your wellness? And then vice versa, what experiences of wellness have you brought into your travels?
This is really good. So the first thing that really comes to mind was my first solo trip. That was so that I did the trip. I went to Turkey, then I went to Dubai to see a friend, then I went to Japan for the cherry blossom.
Oh wow, that's
festival.
a fuck of a first trip.
It's funny because I went to the front desk, the clerk, and they're like, "You have three," because I also, cheap. One leg here, one leg there. They're like, "Are you coming back?" Like they were confused. They didn't want to give me my ticket because they thought I was just gonna skip a leg. But for me, that was such a nerve-wracking experience because as someone that's an introvert, I've always relied on, other people kind of figuring out what's going to happen. I don't want to like meet new friends, meet new people. That's too much energy. I'm here to vacation. I'm here to relax. And what that really taught me, that trip allowed me to stretch my boundaries and allowed me to know that, this is for anyone that is considered an introvert or have introverts in their life. There's a really good book called Quiet by Susan Cain. And that book allowed me, I think I read it before my trip, but that book allowed me to realize that being an introvert is not a curse. It is not something that's bad. I think we are in a society where extroverts are usually rewarded. A lot of the way we're schooled is extrovert centric. The way you succeed in corporate America is usually extrovert centric. So that book allowed me to realize I'm not the problem, right? It's just what I'm putting myself in scenarios that might be the problem, or I might be thinking about myself in a way that may seem like a victim, or I'm not good enough because I'm not an extrovert. When in actuality, I have a lot of strengths related to being an introvert, such as community building, such as being ideation and thinking and brainstorming. So I had to use that in the real world. So I kind of did it in practice, and I went on this trip across Asia, Europe/Asia. And, in the beginning, it was stressful. But after a while, went to the hostel in Turkey, made friends very easily. And they kind of stuck with me throughout there. Went to Dubai, made friends easily. And while also I learned to respect my energy. If I was feeling tired, I wouldn't go out. I might have booked a tour, but if it was like, no, stay, read, cool. So I think that trip allowed me to look at what my strengths and weaknesses are and to really be with myself in that space. So I think that was a big that's a big moment that I think about now that really deals with my wellness and who I am as a person. So your other question was wellness into travel, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what I love to do, or at least before the pandemic, was runcations. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. I was actually, if you look up, my hair's kind of blocking it. But these are some of my medals.
Oh, that's what that is.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so
Do you mind if I
fly.
put my laptop up?
Of course I don't. Please do.
These are so these. I have a whole bunch of other medals, but these are my favorite / most impactful.
Wow.
Oh. So the middle is my logo. But I have Berlin. I went to Antarctica. Not Antarctica. I did Arkansas, Hawaii, Vancouver, Chicago, Miami, to name a few. But what I say all that to say is, like you said, being intentional about travel. I love races. I love medals. I used to call myself a medal thought. Because I just collect them. It's just I remember my coworkers would be like, "Are you leaving?" I would go travel to go somewhere to do a race and come back and be at work on Monday, like backpack ready and go. This is back when I was way younger. But what that really taught me as well is like I do enjoy travel. I do enjoy wellness. So why not find ways to combine what you love to do? It's actually funny because my therapist was like, if spirituality is something that you want to work on, why don't you find a location such as, somewhere in Africa or Cuba where spirituality might be something that you can tie into your travels?
Yeah.
So those are the things I'm trying to learn to, one, be intentional and, try to plug it. And it's not a trip for a trip, which, not to say you shouldn't. Sometimes you just need to be on a beach and not think.
Mm-hmm.
But there are ways to try tie in. If you love community service, tying that. If you love wellness, if you love whatever you like, just tying it into travel to like a 2-for-1.
I love that. So one of the things that you had mentioned in the first half of your answer, when you were saying that like you would check in and say, because I too have lost money on an experience that I booked, and then I wake up and I'm like,
it ain't it.
Not today.
Not today, Gina, not today.
No. So that money's gone.
It's gone.
And what clicked, it just kind of popped up at me. And I guess this is a very personal share, but one of the ways in life I have made like the worst decisions, like the decisions that tend to just make me question whether or not I have any sense at all, always got to do with niggas. Like I have always made the worst decisions. Like I find that it has been in like, objectively looking through the Rolodex of dumb shit I've done, 80% of it had to do with another person. You know what I mean? And that is what it is. I don't hate myself anymore for that. However, one of the things that I struggle with is trusting myself to make the right decisions, because in a lot of those experiences, I did my absolute best with the information that I was given at the time. And I thought I was making good decisions, but generally proved themselves not to be. So that definitely fucked with whether or not I felt that I was capable of making good decisions for a while. And one of the things that, like, as you were saying, no, not today. If I want to just stay and read, I'm going to stay and read. And it, like, travel absolutely gave me so many opportunities to make decisions where I've learned to trust myself more. Like where I struggled with it at home, it was absolutely something that showed itself as something I was very capable of doing when I put myself in new situations, when I gave myself new decisions to make, when I gave myself new, I don't want to say struggles, but new challenges to conquer. Travel has absolutely given me the opportunity to pick myself up out of the little box that I live in and be in, you know, a bag. I'm out the box and into the bag. Like, it's a whole different shape. This bitch can take any shape I want it to take, and I'm in it. You know what I mean? And
like,
those experiences in travel gave me, I won't say like the utmost confidence, because that's something we're going to have to work through in therapy if I ever get back. But that is absolutely something that I was just like, oh, bitch. Like, you done lived through how many countries? You done lived through how many? I don't know where I'm going. Just walk this way. Like, and you're fine.
Right.
So it's like, yes, you can make decisions, but sometimes you really, well, in my experience, I have found that I have learned to trust my decisions, and I have been able to see a lot of things more differently once I'm able to look at them through the lens of travel. Now, a lot of things that I also, not beating myself up for it, is sometimes like the lesson is kicking you in the head, like the information is there, but you don't see it because of home glasses, right? A lot of times you don't see the things that you know, or you don't feel a lot of the things that you know. Like, you're an introvert. I find myself to be more introvert leaning, and I can make new friends because I was given a new challenge. I was given a new environment. It's not like when you're home, like, you know who you are. When you are in your regular surroundings, when you are walking out you walk out your building, walk out your house, walk into your job, you know who you are, because that is the life that you generally live. It's just, even if you are challenged with it, or even if you are questioning certain things, or if not all things are understood, there is a comfort in the things that you know. And while there are so many unknowns in a regular life and in everyday giving, that's not like the what you know that I mean. It's just that comfort and that ease of when you're not thinking, you are still existing. And who you are in the realm of your regular existence is often very different from the you that is faced with a challenge that isn't a burden. You know what I mean? Like a challenge that isn't necessary. Yeah, like a new challenge, a fun challenge, an exciting challenge, versus a challenge where, damn, I'm short on rent, or damn, I'm short on, you know, emotional capacity to deal with this nigga that I've been fighting with for the past 3 years. When is we ever gonna break up? Or I don't know how to approach my mom and my dad about, you know, them feeling one way. I don't know what I want to do for college, but I don't want to be here. This isn't the major for me. So it's not like the challenge that you traditionally face in regular life that tends to be a little more detrimental, but it's more challenges that build you up, challenges that give you that kick that says, nah, like, you're good, or no, you have these skills, like, that you didn't know that you had, because you're used to living life in the regular space and under the regular conditions of what you already know. And so are the people around you. The people around you are used to dealing with you the way that you present. So that's how they're going to treat you. That's how they fucking with you. You know what I mean? They just treating you and being with the Joe they know. They are interacting with the D that they know. But when I go to some random city, when we just went to Detroit, I don't know nobody in motherfucking Detroit, but guess what? They don't know me either. So they don't know how to interact with me. They don't know who the fuck they're getting. So I get to lead that conversation. And now I get to interact with people that have no preconception of what it is that I'm going to bring to the table. And and that really just hit me while I was listening to you really detail your experience. So thank you for that. And I really find that to be the beauty and what I really, really enjoy about doing this and doing the podcast. It's just conversation. It's just talking to people. You'd be surprised one of the things that I've held very strongly to before I started the podcast, and I still do, but it's one of those things that I've always held on, even before I was doing the podcast. I've been doing creative work since 2008 that I can document, like that I can like internet creative stuff. I was always I always wrote and I'm sorry, Ma. I was absolutely an annoying child. God bless you. But I always had a fucking show to put on. There was always some kind of performance. I was one of those little niggas. And, you know, shout out to everybody that ever watched me do a show. You know what I mean? But I truly, truly, truly believe that you can learn something from anyone if you ask the right questions. I don't care if you're asking the homeless guy on the street. I don't care if you're asking the addict at your job, because quite as it's kept, there are addicts on the job, not just on the street. Hear me out? You see what I'm saying? Like, don't go conflating the two. They're not mutual. They can be mutually exclusive. They don't always have to go together, but you can learn something from anybody if you ask the right questions. And a lot of times you don't even have to ask. You don't have to know what question to ask. Just be willing to ask and listen. You have to also be willing to listen to what people want to share with you. And I really hope that that's a benefit people find in listening to the podcast, is that it's just a whole bunch of different type of people that show up and just share their experiences with travel. It's not about like, oh, I went to Dubai, I did this with the sand here, I saw this, I went here, I spent this money, and look at me. Yes, look at me, but look at me because of this experience that I had and how I am able to redefine this aspect of my life, or look at what it did for me and now it can do for you. It's more of a, we could all grow together, as opposed to I've grown faster than you, or I've grown further than you. I don't know. What are your thoughts on like negative travel experiences and how they kind of influence different travel decisions?
So similar, I think we said that before. I don't treat them as negative. I would just say they were lessons learned and I no longer do them again. So a couple of them, I have a couple. One is I know who to travel with. I've learned, I have I have one consistent travel buddy. Hey, Arnice. Hey, girl. Like we've done it for 10 years. We've literally been to every continent together, from Antarctica to Africa.
Wow.
And it's like, we know how, like, and it's not even just say we like the same things, but it's like, she knows, oh, he's an introvert. He needs this time. I can plan up to this. I can ask this. I'm like, oh, she likes to do this. This is going to be our free day for each both, right? So we kind of know each other. There are some people that, as someone in travel, there's always someone that's going to say, oh, you invite me next time. It's like, that's not how it works. Like, you have to, let's do a pre-trip, like let's do something local.
We've never done anything together before.
There's levels. So
we don't have each other's phone numbers.
Can we get to the basics? But I think that's one. Two, just like knowing people. So I don't like doing trips of more than 3 or 4 people. Okay. It's just too much, too many cooks in the kitchen, and it's just too much for me. 3, I've learned that, no matter what you're doing, so even if you're going away for a wedding, if you're going away for a whatever it is, you got to remember, this is me, I got to remember that the trip is also mine. Right. I think there's times when you go in a group, you're like, okay, whatever the group does, I'll do, it's fine. But if we're all paying money for the trip, you should have a say in how you feel. So if you're an introvert and you need that day, you need to make sure everyone knows, because you paid a portion of the trip, that that's what you want to do for that day. So I've learned to be more assertive about what I want in a trip. And that comes with being intentional. That comes with, being very tired after doing a lot of like having itineraries back to back for 4 days, like everything planned out for 30 minutes. It's like, I don't work well with that, because
I don't live my regular life
grace.
like that.
Give me a little liquid.
Right.
What if I want a nap? Because a nap on the beach. What if I'm
kicking it with somebody? What if I meet somebody new and we're in the middle of a great conversation? I'm not going to cut like a really great conversation short for, you know what I mean? Like for some fucking chicken nuggets. Girl, like you ain't even eating nowhere nice.
So those are 3. And so I think on the flip side, I've also learned, although I'm from New York City and, we are very desensitized to a lot of things, I'm still very trusting. And I've learned to be a little bit more vigilant when I'm traveling. I've had some negative or some bad, some less than ideal situations when I'm traveling, specifically when I went to Cuba, but I'm not going to get into that, where I thought I was fine. I thought I was okay, especially, and this is where I often take my being a Black man, outside of America, what a Black man means, but just me being taller of a presence, feeling more safe usually than compared to other, like a woman, for instance. I'm like, all right, I've got it. But, I'm a target too. If anything, I'm just a bigger target sometimes.
Yeah.
So I've just learned, like, never assume anything. Always be prepared for anything. Always for me, I'm also not very flamboyant. Like I don't like to make a big deal of things and just like everyone, I'm going here today. I'm like, I'm just in the cut. I'm doing it. And for me, I've learned that, you need to start to tell people about what you're doing because one, you're also giving permission for other people to live their best lives. And that's just from a amazing lifestyle. But two, if something happens to you, you want people to know where you at. You want people to know like how to reach you. You want people to be able to check up on you. So just learning to be a little bit more outgoing and telling people what you're doing, telling people what I'm doing so that they know what's going on and they know I'm good.
So you kind of touched on the next thing I wanted to ask you. I am a Black woman.
Mhm.
That's the only perspective I can speak on. What has your experience been like traveling as a Black man? And as a very obvious Black man, I'm 5'5". I'm pretty fucking small. Like I'm very easy to miss. You're 6'3", bro. You are 6'3", 6 foot and 3 inches of chocolate fineness. How do you manage and how do you navigate all of that?
So it came through lessons of going places. I was very in the beginning of my travel career, so I'll say like a good 10 years ago, I just went wherever. Let's go to Europe, let's go to Asia, let's go wherever. And after a while, I started to realize I don't like going to certain places. So one example is I went to China on a layover. I think it was Shanghai. I'm not sure.
Same.
But I went there and shout outs to, no shade to that was one of the worst travel experiences. I was only there for like 8 hours that I ever had. It was just so uncomfortable. I was hovering over everyone, right? I'm tall, I'm Black. Everyone sees me coming from a mile away. And I was getting such stares.
Yep.
It was so uncomfortable. I literally just went to go look at like a statue and come back. Went on the train, it was so uncomfortable. Went through the streets, it was so uncomfortable. And I think what made it worse is because I just came back from Japan. In Japan, they're so politically correct. So no one's staring at you. They might have thoughts, but no one's staring at you. No one's saying anything. They're bowing, they're nice. So just coming from that, I was just like, I do not like this experience at all. And I know that happens a lot in other places too, especially where they don't see them as Black people. So that was one experience that I did not like. So those are now, I'm still open to go wherever, but I will tend to stay away from places where I feel like I'll be treated as other because I'm already treated like that in America. Because America, you got a problem. All right, keep Beyonce. But on the flip side, through going to Africa more, through going to the Caribbean, to going to Brazil, which is still one of my top countries to go to. I just learned the beauty of being Black. And there are so many places that embrace it. Brazil and Ghana were the two places that I've gone where it's just like, oh, they love Blackness, right? There's just like, that's what it is. And it's just, when I don't need to feel like a other, it just makes the travel experience different. I get to open up. I get to feel like I'm home. I always remember I went to South Africa. That was my first trip to Africa. And so this guy was selling trinkets on the side of the street, whatever. And he said, "Welcome home, my brother." And when I tell you, I was about to bawl right there. I gave that man my money. I don't even know what it was I bought from him.
Yeah,
but
maybe nothing.
It wasn't. It was. I think it broke it. But that sentiment just really made me realize, like, I get to travel to places, yes, to learn and to learn about different cultures, but also to find me and to feel home as well. So once again, being intentional, and that's why I'm like, every year I always say Africa has to be somewhere, or somewhere like a Black country is like, I have to go somewhere every year.
Have you done Colombia yet? Have you been to Cartagena?
I have been to Colombia. I loved it, but there's the reason why there's a little asterisk is my own bias of Colombia is a place where it's like, if you don't speak English, that's your problem. There are certain countries where it's just like, we'll try to, tours. They're like, no, you either know Spanish, or you don't. And that was my fault, right? Because I did not come prepared. But overall, I did love the whole country. It was beautiful. I was running up the mountains. Yeah, it was a dope trip. Super Black too, or certain parts. But
yeah, I think Cartagena and Cuba were,
Cuba, yeah.
and I say a city and a country because I did a bunch of different little pockets in Cuba. Like I got to go see a bunch of corners, but in Colombia, I stayed in Cartagena and I didn't really go too far. I think I went to like Rosario Islands, but that was like a day trip to the beach. That don't count. And then I did Palenque, which is a black ass city, so that's a given. But and I also had a similar experience in China. I too had a layover in Shanghai. I was there for maybe a total of 12 hours. Shout out to my host. So I think I just went through my Airbnb history, if you will. Her name was Eileen, however she pronounces it. She was such a sweetheart. Didn't speak a lick of fucking English. Not even like hello, okay? But when I tell you, Sistren looked out for me. Like she figured out that through, texting and it translates for you. I was lost. I could not find her building. She came outside and got me. And she was equipped with her little Google Translate, and we did our best. But outside of her, yeah, I had never been stared at.
It was.
I have not, and I ain't had no hair, so I don't know if it was like, is it the black thing? Is it the no hair thing? And then I try to also be like a little more gracious, like, oh, do you just think I'm pretty? Or because a lot of times people ain't staring at you for anything like negative. They're just like, oh, she's pretty, and they're just in their own head. But I have never in my life like China.
Are different. There's a because
you can feel the energy in it,
and it's not because you always could tell when someone don't see black people often, and that stare is more of like an inquisitive, like, oh, what's going on there? But the stare there was just very like
aggressive.
It felt aggressive. Like, what are you doing here?
Ooh,
there's difference between like, oh, you're interesting. I've never seen this before. You're here.
Yeah, like, what are you doing here? Wow.
Yeah. Or question mark versus exclamation point. So my perception of what I have, and I haven't gone back. I probably won't in the near future, but that was a hell of 8 hours.
I co-sign you on that one. What has your running experience been like? Is it different to go someplace to run than it is to go someplace to just kind of like vacation?
Yes and no. I think similar to what we were talking before, runcations usually have a very specific intention. So I'm not, if I don't catch the certain things, if I can't go someplace, I have the focus is the race. And then everything else is more like a fun to do. One thing that I've always noticed when racing is, I would go to these spaces and racing, at least when I was doing it back then, there's not that many black people that were doing the long distance races.
That was my next question.
So it was very interesting to be. It's actually funny because I went to the Seaweeds, which is in Vancouver, and it was hosted by Lululemon. And actually, when I tell you throughout that course, I could probably count on both my feet and hands the black people, and half of them came with me because we weren't together. But to the point where at the festival afterwards, I think someone from either HR or someone like higher up in the company gave us like gift receipts or gave us like gift cards, just saying like, oh, thank you guys for being here. You guys are amazing, yada, yada, yada. I was like, I'll take it. It's
I'm gonna take your money, but I'm also gonna look at you like,
give me more. What else you got? You got an endorsement? You got a brand? You got an ambassador? Like, give me where's the
what you want, comp? Huh? You want to handle lunch? Dinner?
So that's always an extra thing of just like, there are also, outside of the country piece and traveling piece, there are also perceptions of what I would do as someone that's running. Because even for me, I am a bigger guy, taller, a little bit, way more. And they automatically have an assumption of that I'll be slow. But I'm actually can book it. Like I can hold my weight. I can go pretty fast. And I've always, at the end, there's always someone at the race is like, I did not expect you to go that fast. I bet you didn't. Well, you should have thought differently, and you should have been training. No.
And look what it got you. Now look at you. Huh?
Hello. But it is a very interesting experience to be traveling when while running. You once again you meet people, meet a really good community, and I enjoy getting to do both. Like I said, learning about the city, and even if I'm not there for a race, usually every country I go to, I end up like running somewhere throughout the city. I remember I went in France. I went to Paris, which. Have you been to Paris?
Negative. Well, I did France, but I only did southern France. It was part of I went to Barcelona and I did a 3-country day trip. So we did northern Spain, we did Andorra, and then we did southern France. The food was trash, but go ahead.
Relatable. So I say all that to say I went there for personal, just relaxing, and I ended up running maybe like 12 miles just around the city, just learning about it. And I used to do this
12 miles in a motherfucking day. Goddamn.
When I was in New York City, I used to love like running through Brooklyn. Like I would have 12 miles to run, but just you learn so much about the city through running. I love and biking too, but I love running and seeing how the city kind of morph. You can kind of see where the more gentrified areas start, and you can kind of see where people are not paying attention to the areas. And I always love to explore a city through that lens. So I usually tried every trip to do some type of long run or run some sort of way so I can learn that way.
Now, question for you. Do you ever feel unsafe running places? Do you vet where you're staying to see whether or not there are Black people in the area? So a big Black man running through their neighborhood isn't going to, give them cause to interfere with you in a manner that is unsafe for you? Because I would be terrified personally.
That's a good question. Yeah, I do. So there are a few apps that you can kind of map out your run. There's reviews of the run. So I always try to map it out, kind of realize like where I want to go. If my phone dies, how am I going to get back? Like I try to think of everything that can go wrong during a run. And then make sure I have like some backups and things of that nature. So yeah, a lot of planning, even if for a short 2-3 mile run, I always have something planned. And I always, even if I'm away, I'll still, because especially this Strava, which is a running app, anytime you start a run, you can notify people that you're starting it. So even if I'm like in my front yard, it says, do you want to notify your friends that you're starting? And it sends a text saying, oh, Joe's starting this run, yada, yada, yada. So I always like to let them know, it's not when I'm home, but more like when I'm away, that I let them know what's going on.
Oh, I like that one. That's clutch, because I always someone always knows where I am for the most part. And now I don't travel by myself anymore. I travel with my partner, but like my mom shout out to mom again. She did a great job of checking in while not being burdensome. Yeah. I know in Cuba, I don't know how I fucked it up, but the cards that you got to get so if you've never been, you have to get data on an actual, like a phone card, basically. If you are born in a time where you don't know what a phone card is, you had to buy like a little plastic card that had a bunch of numbers and stuff, and you call a number, you plug it in, and then you're allowed to call long distance, or you're allowed to use data or minutes to make the phone call on your device. That as it may. Cuba, you need a little card, right? So I fucked it up. I don't know how, but I could not use the card on my phone. I had no data. And this was like, when I went to Cuba, it was my 33rd birthday. This was the first birthday I wasn't with my mom. This was the first birthday that I would not I'm like, I gotta figure this out. Thankfully, I always bring like a burner phone with me. Like I bring a spare, them cell phones that just sit in a drawer. I always bring a spare so that if God forbid something happens, my shit gets stolen, it gets broken, or like there's a SIM issue, or I fuck up with a data card, I've got another phone and I'm able to contact home. So I fucked it up on my main phone, but I had a secondary. So I was able to get my happy birthday from my mama. So it was, it's one of those things where somebody knows where I am. And it was in that one trip where I shout out to you, girl, because I know that I would have been nervous if your grown ass was someplace and where's my text, my call, something, are you alive? That kind of thing. So I like that app lets you notify somebody without you having to actually do the extra steps.
Nope. And it shows you on the map where they're at. So
what about insurance? Do you have, and it show where you at? Come on. Technology. Do you do travel insurance? Sorry, Banksy. Do you do travel insurance when you travel, obviously?
I used to not. I used to be a very YOLO-esque, but now I'm just like I try to either coordinate it to make sure, because I think some of my credit cards cover it. So I'm trying to be very intentional. But usually now, especially with COVID and everything, although some of my insurances are not covering COVID,
Correct.
Learned that the hard way. I try to make sure I'm covered some way, either through that insurance or through my cards.
Because I'd be scared, like running in new areas, new surfaces and stuff
Oh,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
Like something as simple as like you trip or somebody opens their car door. You know what I mean? And it's just not only do you navigate the language barrier,
Yes.
but then not knowing what is an emergency number to call. What is, is
Yes.
there a hospital on this island? It's fun and games until like,
And your boy got asthma, so
oh, come on, man.
always stay ready. I've learned from a young age, stay ready so you don't have to get ready
Yeah.
with that inhaler at least.
So, in terms of your experience with wellness, with travel, and your podcast, and all of your professional experiences, being data driven, and now, as we've conversed, experience driven, what ways do you have to offer to help the people? Of course, definitely going to leave the link to your podcast in the description box, but what other ways do you have that you are offering for people to engage with Joe, the wellness curator?
Yes, thank you, darling. So one, you can follow me on IG, of course, is Joe, the wellness curator, and the podcast, the Obsidian Mindset. Both are on IG. I have a 30-day wellness planner or challenge. So similar to we were discussing the 8 dimensions of wellness, it's just a way for you to really think about wellness means every day, not too burdensome. I think we were discussing before, you don't need it to be like, I'm running a marathon today. Like if that's your thing, cool. But it's just like, oh, did you take a second to breathe? Because sometimes I forget to breathe. I forget how important it is. So it's just really honing in and starting from the base level and making you realize what wellness looks like, so I can craft it to mean whatever you need it to, so you can live your best life. So 30-day wellness planner.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
No, I find that I just and not breathe, reminding myself to breathe, but to relax. Like I hold all my tension here.
Ooh.
It's always here, and I could be doing absolutely nothing, and I realize, like, girl, it's all right. Calm down. And then 30 seconds later, I just have to keep going through the mode. Like I will have to remind myself 5 times in a 3-minute window, but I just keep, all right, it's cool. You back.
It feels good though, right? Like just that deep breath. It's like everything just melts away. And like, all right, I can get to what I need to do now. I'm here.
So those little reminders, you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised until someone reminds you or someone brings it to your awareness.
Yep.
That it's something that you're even doing. So while someone's like, well, all right, yeah, so small little reminders, yeah, whatever. You'd be surprised. Like check out the 30-day reminders. There's something in there that you are not giving all of your attention to, and it could absolutely serve you. I'm definitely going to check that out.
And after 30 days, you might not need it anymore, right? Like that's the point, is not to be relying on it. It's that you become an expert and you're like, okay, now I'm thinking about this every day. Wellness, how does it fit me? Yeah. So I'm doing that. I'm taking on 2 new clients. So if you are looking to start your wellness journey, I try not to focus on weight loss because, that's not what we're trying to do. Wellness is not only about how you weigh and, those numbers and how you're feeling. So I'd love to coach from that standpoint. We're also running a Spartan race, me and my boy. So if we're going to try to find some people who needs to be trained, we'll do that as well. I'll send out some more information on that later. And lastly, I do have merch. So if anyone wants to rock Obsidian, we got that too. We have a sweatshirt and a dad hat. But I think for me, what's most important, and I always say this, even if you aren't going to be coached under me, if I'm very big on like just popping in the DMs and just having that conversation about wellness. I think a lot of people are afraid to talk about wellness, whatever dimension it is. Even I'm still working through it. It's one of those things where you just have to be more comfortable. Similar to travel, the more you do it, the more you're more comfortable just getting on a plane or talking about it. So I'm really big on starting that conversation. And if I can't help you, I'll be able to find someone that can. And yeah, make you comfortable with wellness. That's where I want everyone to be at.
And what I like about that offer also is that you are you're not just a personal trainer, like you are aware of and spend time focusing on so many different modalities in wellness. It's not just about weight. So like if weight isn't your thing, or if physical activity like isn't really like your thing, but like, damn, what you said about like spiritual and what you said about social, that really clicks. I realize that I don't necessarily find that I am building lasting relationships. Maybe I want to tap in with something. He ain't gonna sit here and like therapize you. Like that's not really what I think he's trying to like offer here. It's a conversation. It's a bringing an awareness. It is, maybe you didn't know this. Let me spit a couple things your way. Let me throw a couple resources your way so that you can find a path that will get you towards something that is better suited for you and the part of wellness you are looking to improve.
I know that's right, girl. That was good. I'm about to record that and put it on my website.
I will send you the clip. You hear me? I will send you the clip. Remind me though, because I'll remember. So that, in a closing note, is why travel is so much more than vacation. It is absolutely the gift that keeps on giving if you allow it to. Open yourself up to being intentional with your travels. If you need to focus on wellness in any modality, whether it be the social aspect, the financial aspect, the emotional, the physical, even just if you realize, you know what, I want to pay more attention to what I'm eating. Use your trip to do that. It doesn't have to be like a rocket science kind of thing. It can be as simple as, I'm going to make my food more colorful. I'm going to try new foods. I'm going to try new drinks. And it's nothing more exciting than trying it. Well, you could say, oh yeah, while I was in Bali, I actually tried, this drink that, cause yeah, bitch, I did try some new shit in Bali. You know what I mean? Like I had Luwak coffee. They shit out the beans. All right. I drank it. But guess what? A bitch could say I did it in Bali. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's a cute little story before somebody's like, they did what with them beans? Yes. But here we are with a story, discourse, and now making a new friend. You know what I mean? So if wellness is something that you are more interested in focusing in, whatever modality it may be, definitely give Joe a holla. And also head over to travelandshippodcast.com, because don't forget, I've got the Mindful Traveler course in my list of offerings. 7 different Black women across 7 different modalities in wellness. This is the wellness episode. We got y'all covered. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, we've got you covered. Joe got the 8 modalities. I got 7 women talking about their modalities: sound, walk, yoga, affirmations, heart checks, breathing, food, and I cannot remember the last one right now because
you got them all, girl.
This spider thing that we talked about before.
Oh yes,
I don't know if.
I'm glad it. Oh, there's my dog.
I'm glad it waiting. I'm glad it waited. You know, appreciate you, friends.
I think it's telling you to wrap up. It's like,
yeah,
I need to move. So
I guess we're discussing the terms of engagement, the rent. Maybe he's gonna put in. I don't know. But travel's more than vacation. And this is the wellness episode. So we got your wellness covered. We both got offerings for you. I absolutely will have Joe's contact information in the belows. Don't forget to check out the Obsidian Mindset. And that's spelled with an O, y'all, like the stone, Obsidian.
That's right.
Not like A. So I know that that's something, if you're not familiar with stones and crystals, that may just kind of go over your head because you're just listening. Not a call to judgment. It's just a pointing out, just in case you're hearing and not seeing it. It is spelled with an, what is it? OBSID. Go for it.
IAN. No, you're right.
Okay. So that'll also be in the description. I'm going to make it easy for you. Visual keys and visual triggers.
That's right.
So that's it. Joe, anything else you want to leave the people with?
That's it. I appreciate you. I appreciate everyone for listening. And just always remember to take a little time for you. And thank you for picking you today.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.